Hi, I'm Lydia. I didn't grow up sailing, I started in my 20s and now I'm about to sail in one of the hardest offshore races in the world. Welcome to my latest episode where you'll be joining me, Skipper Andy and my crewmates Rory and Will as we take Fastnet on. The Fastnet race is legendary, a gruelling, unpredictable and often brutal offshore route. We're racing aboard Afrita, a Sigma 33, one of the smallest yachts in the fleet, and we'll be sailing non-stop for 700 miles, which we expect to take a week. I only started sailing in my 20s after crossing the Atlantic on a catamaran in 2021, and I've been hooked ever since. But this race is on a whole other level to anything any of us have ever done before. Join us as we tackle weather, exhaustion and unexpected breakages in a race that ends in a way none of us could have ever imagined. And don't forget to subscribe to keep up with my travel, sailing and van life adventures.
Welcome back. The day is finally here and we are getting ready for Fastnet. This is something that we've been training for 7 months. Pretty exciting now. Our start time is at 1:20, it's now 11:40. We've got some of the bigger boats leaving, the catamarans and the IMOCas, and we're just watching them before we drop the lines and head to the waiting area and get ready for the next 7 days of sailing. It's 700 miles. It's going to be the hardest thing any of us have done probably. None of us have done Fastnet before and we are really excited and looking forward to the challenge and to see what the next 7 days brings us. Rory, how are you feeling?
Yeah, excited, let's go.
Yeah, we're ready and raring now.
Raring.
Rar. We've got a new crew member as well, so Jack, who has been in our previous videos, he wasn't able to make it in the end, so we've got Will sailing with us, who very kindly jumped on last minute, so very grateful for that. It means we can do it 4 of us, not 3. Andy, how are we feeling?
Pretty good, very excited.
Excited?
Yeah, really.
Boats ready? How much work has gone into getting us here?
Well, a lot, yeah. All winter prepping things and lots of crew training and lots of little details.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Lots of safety equipment we had to put on. And
yeah, training, courses.
Yeah.
Everything. So
A lot.
no pressure.
No, God. A lot of pressure. Be nice to get started.
91 boats on our start line. Let's try and not hit any of them.
Yeah, definitely. Might have to have somebody on the bow.
Want to be on the bow?
Yeah.
Will's the new crew member.
I mean...
Say hello, Will. What's the start line tactics?
Should be this side of it. 100%. I think the tide is starting to do its tidal thing there. Yeah, it's about 30 degrees of tide in our cross-track error component in our course right now.
Yeah.
So the ebb is starting to ebb.
So basically the earlier boats, a lot of them are getting penalties for drifting over the start line because the tide has turned and there's a lot of tide here, and the penalty for that is 2 hours. So this may be the only point in the race where we're actually beating people. That's 1.5 minutes.
Seconds, okay, head still in. Yeah, okay, 10-20 seconds. Are we ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Okay, get some weight down the boat. Down the boat. Rory, I get on the boat. Get up there. Down the boat. Get driving.
Alright, we're in it now, Andy.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
So 1 hour 20 minutes in, we had a pretty good start, I think. We're ahead of some boats, and the wind as we're coming out the Solent or down the Solent is steadily building. So we started off under 10 knots. That's been gradually building. Now we're on about 16 knots. We've swapped from the number 1 Genoa onto the number 2. We've got a reef in. Everyone's got life jackets on. Already soaking from being on the bow, but yeah, really fun start. Really happy with the wind. And now we're going through some overfalls because we've got a lot of tide with us. Going sort of like 8 knots, which is good for us. And yeah, just 7 more days to go.
As we sailed out of the western Solent, the wind eased back to around 12 knots, so we changed back to the number 1 head sail, the second sail change of what would be many over the course of the race. With things finally settled, we also decided it was time to break into our rations. With the boat moving steadily, Rory and I tried to get our heads down for an hour in preparation for our first night shift. We knew everyone would have to work hard and sail strategically to get through the South English coast's notorious tidal gates. Meanwhile, Andy and Will locked into racing the boats around us.
Okay, Andy, 6.5 hours in. What's been going on?
Had a pretty successful beat down the Solent in light number 1 conditions, and then the wind built as expected. And we got to Hurst Narrows, and it was quite fierce for a while. Got swept out at 10 knots, slapped around quite a bit, and then it's calmed down again, and it's been quite a pleasant sail, really. Now we are trying to figure out what we're going to do with Portland Bill, because our part of the fleet can't make the tidal gate, so we are going offshore. So looking for better wind, trying to work out how far offshore we should go. So maybe we'll go 8 miles, maybe we'll go a bit less.
Morning.
Also awake.
I do.
It's you.
Oh, I know. So we are now on 5:30 in the morning. We're a bit tired. There's quite a lot going on last night, but we did have really good conditions. So sort of 12 to 15 knots, upwind, pretty good sea state. We were going really quick. In the night we put a couple of reefs in, shook a couple of reefs out, then we did a head sail change at about 4 AM. So now we're racing towards the gate near Salcombe, and it's looking pretty touch and go. So we're about 12 miles offshore now, hoping we don't get held back too much by the tide like we did off of Portland Bill, and yeah, just waiting to see how much we get done over by the tide.
Day 2 treated us to perfect sailing conditions, which made it feel like a crossover between a cruise and a race. When you sign up for Fastnet, you expect to be in potentially terrifying storms, not the champagne sailing we were being treated to. It was great for morale and for maintaining energy levels, and we were all very grateful, but it was early days and we knew that anything could happen between now and the finish line.
It's almost 9 PM on Sunday now, so day 2. We've had very similar conditions, so a lot of reefs in and out, no head sail changes after this morning. We've had between sort of 10 and 13 knots. The forecast has been pretty much spot on, so that's been great. We are making our way now towards Lizard Point, and we are really hoping to make this tidal gate, and it looks like we will. I've been up in the cockpit for about 8 hours now, so I'm going to try and get some rest. It's been beautiful weather, beautiful day. Everyone is feeling pretty happy, I think. I definitely am, and yeah, enjoying it even more than I thought I would, to be honest. What is the plan for tonight?
We've got a fairly easy sail across Mounts Bay, hopefully, before we start to shape up for going around Land's End. And the plan at the moment is to go through the middle of the TSS, close to St Mary's North Shore. And I think we'll be there in the daylight, maybe 8 o'clock, something like that, 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow. And the sun is half in the sea right now. And in fact, behind the sun is the lighthouse.
Andy's just woken me and Rory up. It's 2:30 in the morning. We are off of Land's End now, making our way past the southern edge of the TSS zone, so that's the traffic separation schemes, and then we'll go past the Isles of Scillies and start heading and positioning ourselves for the Celtic Sea. And the main thing that we're looking out for is cross-track error, making sure that the tide doesn't sweep us into the traffic separation scheme, because there's big penalties for that. We've overtaken the other Sigma 33, so we're quite happy about that. What's the bucket for? Oh, well done. Okay boys, what happened last night and this morning?
No, I was asleep.
Were we all asleep?
Did we go past the Scillies?
Is that why our rankings are good? Because we all just stopped doing things?
Yeah. No, went past Scillies, didn't we? Went past the TTS. Yeah, got some noodles here.
Probably haven't seen any of those this trip.
Lightweight race bowl made of bamboo, yeah.
The key to success.
Well,
Where are we now then?
On the way to Ireland. I think we've got 140 miles to Fastnet Rock.
I think we climbed a little bit up through the rankings yesterday, but we haven't got much signal. We've got Starlink, but we realised our package only works up to 10 miles offshore, so we picked up a bit of information as we went past the Scillies. It looks like we've made a bit of progress, but we won't know now how we're faring against other yachts other than through AIS until we get to Fastnet and hopefully pick up a signal there. But honestly, the conditions are still amazing, pretty similar to before. We're sailing into the wind, about to head into the Irish Sea. That's probably going to take us 1.5 to 2 days to cross, because we're meant to get some stronger wind which picks up to around 20 knots and we'll be sailing straight into it. So could get a bit uncomfortable, but nothing crazy, nothing outside of our comfort zone. Probably the most crazy thing that happened today is the boys tapped the boat whilst I was on the toilet, which was not the best experience, but I survived.
After several days of sailing upwind, the boat was becoming a mess. For the most part, Fastnet is a long windward leeward, hard on the wind and uncomfortable all the way out to the lighthouse, then a downwind run back towards home. We still had 2 days sailing before we'd reach the rock, and by then a low pressure system was beginning to build ahead. Truth be told, we were all a little excited. After days of steady conditions, the promise of something spicier that night felt like just the change of pace we needed.
So it is 6:30 PM on day 3 and we've just swapped down to the number 2 Genoa. We are expecting this evening for there to be wind up to 20 knots. So we're just sort of preparing for that now, keeping an eye on the barometer and making sure that we've got the energy to deal with whatever tonight throws at us. Hopefully it's not too much.
Unfortunately, before the weather hit, we had another problem to face. Several of the quicker boats returning from Fastnet Rock were getting a bit too close for comfort, so we had to stay alert and monitor the AIS closely.
Well, that is close.
Yeah.
5 it's fuck. Oh, they seem to be bearing away. Oh, I don't know.
Well, they keep switching from port to starboard.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably about 11 PM now, and we had one boat which was aiming directly at us. Our AIS alerted us and we tried radioing them and no reply, so we've just sat here pondering whether to tack or not, watching the AIS and tracking exactly what they're doing. A little bit worrying when you know that there's people not listening to their radios, flying back on their spinnakers, going 12 knots, and you don't know whether they've seen you or not, so just another thing for us to be thinking about.
They're 0.3 at CPA and steady, otherwise I would suggest we tacked. Yeah, I think we can live with 0.3.
As the night pressed on, the wind rose as expected and we settled in for a bumpy ride. It reached a peak of 26 knots true, which wasn't terrible, but it was enough for Afrita to become wet and very uncomfortable as we ploughed upwind into the horrible sea state. By the end of the night, our hands were raw, and for the first time since starting, everyone was feeling tired the next day. Day 4, spirits were high, but the isolation of being at sea and lack of sleep was showing itself. Andy in particular was acting stranger than normal, which was very entertaining.
Skipper's gone mad. What did you say, Andy?
He said you can probably get more nutrition than your own arse.
Rory, on the other hand, was picking fights with his wet weather gear.
It's so hard to get them off.
What's happening?
Well, we're about to have a close cross with somebody or other, who are they?
Tramp of early.
He was a boat that called a pan last night. Somebody's going to go in front, we don't know who yet, but we're on port, so we probably need to go behind them.
Here we go.
No. Oh, it's them. Oh, it's a bigger boat.
In the afternoon, we caught up on rest and did another head sail change before getting stuck in a wind hole off the Irish coast.
What just happened?
Well, we got stuck in a wind hole, which was in the forecast, so I ignored it, we sailed into it. And it turned out there was a wind hole there. How could anybody have known that? So, but we lured in a boat we've been crossing and racing with today, and they got more stuck and didn't notice, and we saw what was happening and bailed out and managed to scrape out. We are the Goliath. I mean, which was it us? Which was
We're the David.
It was a short guy. The
Goliath. David. Oh my god.
We're the Daves.
So we're out of the wind hole and we are now battling with Tramp of Early, I think. And they're 12 metres, we're 10 metres, and they've overtaken us, but we are going to overtake them back. And actually it's really, really nice to actually race against another boat and see someone else, to know that there is other human contact than the people I'm stuck on this boat with. We can see Fastnet in the distance. There it is! Woo!
That evening, none of us slept. We stayed on deck to round Fastnet and navigate the exclusion zones around it. The conditions were idyllic and totally different from the brutal conditions we'd imagined when we'd signed up for the race. Rounding the rock in the middle of the night felt like a huge milestone, a moment we'd all been pushing towards. But as the adrenaline faded, so did our energy. And with over 3 days of racing still ahead, we knew the hardest part was yet to come. Join us next time as we take on the downwind leg of the Fastnet race, where a critical rigging failure at sea and a string of unexpected challenges put our race and our crew to the ultimate test. Don't forget to subscribe to see whether we make it to the finish line, and thanks for watching.